Hello, and welcome back to Gunfighter Life. Today we're going to be talking about the practice session. As always, I am your host, Michael Melito. First and foremost, I am a Christian. That is first and foremost in everything that I do in every part of my life. This podcast is no different. In addition to that, I started competition shooting at a very early age, grew up with guns at a very early age, did my first shooting competition in 1998. Won a lot of different shooting competitions in rifle and pistol. Competed in a lot of other disciplines, muzzle loader, archery, you name it. I probably competed in it. I joined the Marine Corps at 17. In the infantry, went to war, 2 combat tours. By God's grace, made it back in one piece when a lot of other good men did not. So there's that experience. I also served in the U.S. Army, both full-time and part-time. I went to work for the LAPD. I worked in some of the meanest streets in LA and the meanest streets in the country, the nastiest places. And again, by the grace of God, made it back in one piece, mentally and physically. A lot of other things. Worked for the feds, worked for a couple of different 3-letter government agencies. I am an FBI certified firearms instructor. A bunch of other 3-letter alphabet soup thing, government agency, instructor credentials, firearms credentials. Also hunting. I've been blessed to hunt anything from a little tiny gray squirrel on the East Coast to prairie dogs out on the West Coast, from whitetail on the East Coast to big old elk over in the Sawtooth Wilderness of Idaho. And a lot of other things. But been able to hunt all over this beautiful country. Alright, I think that's quite enough about me. I only say that to say that one of the main reasons to get into this podcast and to do this podcast is that I didn't want to... there's a lot of guys out there that have a lot of opinions on guns and gunfighting and, this will get you killed in the street and whatnot. And I'd like to give you an opinion from what I've been very blessed to do in my life from a real-world perspective. Gunfighting is still my day-to-day bread and butter. I am very humbled to be the commander of a tactical unit, and gunfighting is very much our bread and butter. So it's still my full-time profession. So I won't say what that is because this podcast is in no way affiliated with my job. But I just say that to say that it's a real thing for me. It's not some abject, obscure, this thing is better than that thing because it says so on Facebook, or I'm not even on Facebook, because of whatever somebody says on YouTube or whatnot. And everybody has their biases and favorites, and I do too. But this is hopefully coming at it from a real world, credentialed perspective. So let's get into today's topic, the practice session. So just like you wouldn't just go to the gym and just walk around and pick random machines and lift random amounts of weight. Like that would be ridiculous. Nobody would do that. You go in there with some kind of plan on what you want to accomplish. And, you can take that analogy really far. Like a lot of people focus really heavily on one thing and neglect another. A lot of guys do arms all the time and don't ever do legs. A lot of guys lift a ton of heavy weight and their diet sucks and they don't do cardio. And you can those deficiencies show themselves pretty quick. And the same is true in gunfighting. You need to be well balanced and realistic in your approach to your practice session. Lay out, what are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to do? I started out my competition shooting in the slow fire bullseye rifle arena, which was great. It's a great discipline. You learn a lot. But I became a police officer and I realized that if I'm going to get in a gunfight, I'm more than likely going to get into it with my pistol. So I probably should switch gears and start competition shooting in, the fast-paced action pistol world, USPSA, IDPA, Steel Challenge, all those things. So I switched to that because it was more realistic. Competition shooting is not the only training you should get, but it is training. It does make you faster, more accurate. And if you're gonna do that, you should gear it towards what you need done. So when you set up your practice sessions, first of all, think, what are you trying to accomplish? What's the goal? I know I'm not a sniper. You've heard my background a little bit, but I am not a sniper. I don't pretend to be one. But I know that a sniper's practice regimen is not the same as, a police officer's practice regimen. They're not the same thing, and they shouldn't be. They shouldn't do the same things when they go out to the range. A concealed carry practice session should not be the same as a cop's practice session. They're not the same thing. Another thing I would say about the practice session, like we talked about in the gun, dope, and BZO episode, keep notes. See where you are and be honest with yourself where you need to improve. And another thing, like we talked about at the gym, don't just practice the things that you're really good at, because then you neglect the things that you're not good at. You should work more on the things that you're not good at. So keep that in mind too in your practice session. Keep it realistic. Keep track of what you're practicing and keep a metric. You can use somebody else's qualification or use your own qualification or set of parameters, but have a standard and try and beat that standard and try and be better and try and better yourself. So have a standard, have a set of standards. And going into that, I'll cover a basic practice session. Whether it's rifle, pistol, shotgun, start off your practice with dry fire. Even if it's not the same session, dry fire more than you live fire. It's more important. If you only ever go to the range, you're not going to be the shooter that you could be. For a lot of things, dry fire is not only equal to, but better than live fire. Dry firing is not cool. It's not, the sexy thing on YouTube running around, gunfighting, but it is critical if you want to be a good shooter. So dry fire, that's where you start. Have your practice regimen for dry fire. The fundamentals, both live fire and dry fire. Start off your practice with the fundamentals. It won't all be about my practice session, but my main thing when I go out to the range with pistol, my practice session is slow fire headshots at 50 yards. And a lot of people would say that's ridiculous, so that's not the most realistic thing. And it's not the most realistic scenario you'll find yourself in, doing a headshot at 50 yards with a duty pistol. But you have to have mastered the fundamentals to be able to do that. That's my thing that I start and finish with. 7 shots in a row, 50-yard headshots. And I don't do anything else almost all the time unless there's something I'm going out to do, like to zero a sight or to fix something or work on something very specific. But 90% of the time, 95% of the time, it's that slow fire, 50 meters with a pistol. All the fundamentals have to be there. And if not, I try not to get upset with myself and angry, and I analyze it and fix it, and then I get that 7 in a row so that I know that my fundamentals are sound. Because if your foundation sucks, you're not just going to be magically better when you start doing all kinds of tactical, super fancy stuff. One thing I tell guys when I train them is that if you don't shoot good slow, you're not just going to magically shoot good fast. If you don't have the good fundamentals, you're just building on crappy things. If you can't shoot a good group, then you're not going to be able to have a good draw and consistently get good hits because your fundamentals are crap. So master those fundamentals. Your standard does not have to be my standard. Work on whatever standard you have and then try and make it better. Try and push yourself to be better every time you go to the range, but master those fundamentals. Master them in dry fire and then go out and check them in live fire and make sure that you're mastering those fundamentals. Whatever those fundamentals are for you. So master those fundamentals, and then this is gunfighter life, so unless, I'm not going to say it would never happen, maybe you have your gun perfectly on target, finger on the trigger, pointed at down a hallway, and the bad guy pops out right in front of you, and your sights are automatically aligned on the center of the chest or the head, take your pick. But that's not almost never going to happen. You have to get that gun into action. So you need to practice realistically for you how to get that gun into action. So once you've mastered the fundamentals, sight picture, sight alignment, trigger control, breath control, all those things, once you've mastered those, or at least got a good grasp on them, how do you get that gun into action? And that's dependent on you. If you're a cop, that's a duty holster. If you are, if you're a military guy wearing body armor, it might be a drop leg holster. If you are a concealed carrier, it might be from the pocket, it might be from 6 o'clock, from 3 o'clock, from appendix carry. But however you carry the gun, shooting those little groups is very important. I do that a lot. Like I said, you build on that. But if you can only shoot those little groups and you can't get the gun out quickly, then it doesn't matter. If you're dead before your gun gets into action, it's kind of irrelevant how accurate you are. So they're both important. So the next thing I would say always work on when you go to the range is getting that gun in action. If it's, practice all of them, low ready, high ready, all the different ready positions, but practice from the holster. And if it's a rifle, practice from however it's carried, whether it's the center of your car, whether it's from your rifle bag. It's great if you can shoot a little tiny group off a bench at 100 yards. Start there. Start your practice there. Make sure your fundamentals and your trigger placement is good. But then if you carry that gun in a bag, can you get it out of the bag? If you carry it with a sling around your body, can you get it from the slung position to the shooting position quickly? So that should be your next thing that you work on, is getting that gun into action quickly. Again, dry fire. Practice, safely unloaded with a dummy round and making sure there's no live ammo in the area. Dry practice, dry fire with these skills. Dry fire, getting your gun out of the holster quickly and efficiently. There's no reason to waste ammo. Shooting the ammo should be the check to make sure everything is good to go. But if you know how to efficiently dry practice, you can do most of that. And let's face it, most of us, even me, who's my full-time profession, I can't go shooting at the range every day. But you can dry fire every day. You can spend 10 minutes. You can turn off the TV or, take a break whenever during the day and dry fire when you go home, before you go to bed, in the morning before you go to work. If you say you can't, that's generally just an excuse. You can carve out 10-15 minutes a day to dry fire. So dry fire those skills, dry fire the fundamentals, and dry fire getting that gun into action quickly and efficiently. So that practice session, always start out with the fundamentals. Always start and finish with the fundamentals. Then if you have time, if you've sufficiently met your standard and mastered those, go to getting that gun on target quickly. So those are your go-to things to practice, if that's all you can practice, that's all you have time for. Then from there, build on that and practice. Those should be the things you always practice if you have time before you go to other stuff. And then figure out what other skills that day you want to work on. Maybe you want to mainly focus on shooting on the move. That's your skill for the day. Maybe you want to mostly focus on, target transitions. You want to focus on shooting multiple targets today. So that's the thing that you're going to work on after those two things. Maybe you want to work on a lot of different skills. But keep in mind when you're doing that, don't just practice stuff that's fun and looks cool. Don't just shoot, the car technique, shooting on the move super fast, and you never practice shooting weak-handed. Because shooting weak-handed is probably more likely than, shooting moving backwards and the car technique. Both are good skills to know, but you're probably more likely to have to shoot left-handed or you're offhand because you're on the phone or you're dragging somebody or putting a tourniquet on or carrying a child or whatever the case is. Shooting one-handed comes up quite a bit, so make sure you practice that. Don't just, speed reloads are important. If you're practicing the speed reload, that's great. But again, if you haven't shot left-handed in 6 months and you practice your speed reloads every day, maybe give a little bit more time to the left-handed shooting. Maybe give a little bit more time to the shooting on the move if you suck at it. And you're really good at speed reloads. Maybe you need to focus more on that. So have a plan, work on the things that you're not good at the most, that you need the improvement on the most. And always go back to the fundamentals. Start and finish with the fundamentals, whatever that is, whatever your standard is. Start and finish with that. One thing I'll say about quals, whether it's a military qual, a police qual, whatever kind of qualification it is, quals are good, and especially for making sure people meet a standard. But don't just practice the qual, because no matter what qual it is, no matter how good it is, there'll be skills that are not on the qual, and you'll find yourself neglecting those skills. So use the qual as a metrics for, improvement, from now and then a month from now and 6 months from now, that's fine, and quals have their place. But if you're only ever practicing for the qual, then one, you're practicing for the minimum, which you should always strive for better than the minimum. And then also, you'll only be practicing the skills that are on that qual. You'll find yourself focusing on what's on the qual. If there's no multiple targets on that qual, you're never going to practice shooting at 2 or 3 targets at a time. And that's a very realistic thing in a gunfight, especially today. And active shooters and terrorist attacks, you may have more than one target. So if your qual only has one target, which a lot of police quals do, is that really super realistic for what you need to practice all the time? So quals are good. Quals are good for measuring improvement. They're good for making sure people meet a standard, but they should not be your end-all be-all for a practice session. One more thing I'll say on that is if you're always striving to be the best man you can be, to be the best gunfighter you can be, then you'll find that the quals get easier. And they don't actually get easier. You just get way better. If you're pushing yourself to be the best, not just pass a qual, then you won't sweat the quals, because it's the thing. It's like, you're in the Army, you got to run the PFT. If you're running 6-minute miles, you're not worried about passing the PFT. If you're getting 300s all the time, you're not stressing it like the guy that barely is worried about passing the PFT, the physical fitness test. Don't be that guy. Strive to be the best that you can be, and then when the test comes around, it's just a check the box thing. But that has no bearing on you, because you're so far beyond it that it's just a thing. It's not. So be the best gunfighter you can be, and then shoot the qual. Another thing I'll hit on for the practice session is that what I've noticed and what I've seen from all the people that I've taught in classes and all the experiences I've had is that somebody can be a very good rifle shooter and they can suck at the pistol. And the reverse is not true. If somebody is excellent with a pistol, they'll generally be at least good with a rifle. That just is what it is. I'm just telling you that. And I think if you have been around guns long enough and shooting long enough, you'll agree. Much easier to shoot a rifle well than a pistol well. A pistol is a harder machine to master. So if you're going to spend most of your practice doing one or the other, spend it with a pistol, because it'll make you a better rifle shooter as well. But the reverse is not always true. There's a lot of crossover. Good trigger control is good trigger control. But if you only get to practice one, or majority of the time practicing one, I'd say practice the pistol. Another little tip I would say is don't forget about the .22. It's a great training tool, especially if you don't want to spend a bunch of money every time you go to the range. Some things you need your full duty pistol to practice. Yes, that's true. Some things you need your full AR to practice. Some things aren't the same. Shot recovery times are probably not going to be the same. But if you're practicing the draw at 7 yards and you're trying to get really good, really fast, accurate hits on the draw, if you shoot a Smith & Wesson M&P 9mm, why not get a Smith & Wesson M&P 22? That way you can go buy a brick of 500 rounds for $20 at Walmart, and you can practice several range sessions and do hundreds of repetitions of getting a better draw, instead of spending all that money on a 9 or even worse, a 45. So don't forget the 22. If this is not, going out and plinking podcast, this is gunfighter life. So if you're going to shoot a lot, which you should if you're hoping to be a gunfighter and it's at a good one and a surviving one, then rounds cost money. And if you're practicing something that you can practice with a 22, whether rifle or pistol, practice it with a 22. Like I said, if you're practicing the draw at 7 yards and you have a pistol that's even halfway analogous, you're going to be good when you switch back to your duty gun. Always practice with your concealed carry and your life-saving gun for a lot of things. But if you're working on group shooting, you work on your good trigger control, you can do that with a 22. If you're working at long-range rifle, you can put, a coffee can out at 150 yards and practice it with a 22. And that's a very good challenge. It's very similar to shooting, a good, AR, or M16A2 at 500 yards. It's very analogous. So if you can save money that way with the 22, don't look down on it like some less than thing. If it's for training, it's for training. And if you can train with that and save money, yeah, you might be able to buy 100 rounds of 9 for $30, but you can buy 500 rounds of 22 for $20. So, where's your value going to be in that? So, I'll go ahead and close out this episode. I will say whatever kind of thing you're practicing for, whatever kind of gunfight you're practicing for, make your practice sessions effective and make them efficient. Practice things you're not good at. Practicing for 30 minutes on tedious trigger control and the very small minutia of grip and stance and all that stuff is not super fun, but you master those fundamentals and it'll pay off in the end. So I would say keep that in mind for the practice session. I would say stay at it. Just like the gym, it doesn't make much sense to go to the gym and do a 4-hour workout once a month. No good trainer is going to tell you to do that. You'd be better off, going for 30 minutes twice a week. And that's not enough even in my opinion, but you get what I'm saying. Don't just go to the range every 6 months and shoot a bunch of rounds and then not practice at all. You're better off dry firing for 10 minutes every night and then shooting live fire at the range for 20 rounds just to make sure your dry firing stuff is working. But if you have to pick one or the other, do it more often instead of going out and trying to shoot for 8 hours in a day, every 6 months. That's not super effective. Anyway, that's all I got on the practice session, guys. Whatever kind of gunfight you're training for, I hope you never need it in real life. And if you do, I hope God blesses you with another day. Thanks, and until next time, thanks for listening to Gunfighter Life.